What is up, crypto gang? Welcome back to another episode of Hack Crypto, where we hack our cryptocurrency and blockchain education. Got a mustache today, and it is awesome. And if you guys are brand new here, we do a small little giveaway at the beginning of every single episode, and today's winner is CosmicAlien. Thanks so much for commenting on the previous video with your Wax wallet address. CosmicAlien just sent you an NFT. I've been focusing a lot on NFTs because I'm a co-founder of Grow Your Base, where we do a lot of NFT-focused portfolio building, where you sign up and easily get to build an NFT portfolio in a matter of minutes without having to download wallets or anything. I've been getting a ton of questions about the use cases of NFTs. How do you use it? Why do I use it? Why do I need this? Why is it a big deal? Get me excited about this project, Steve. Get me excited about this technology, Steve. Just do it. Just do it. So I'm going to go over a couple of my favorite use cases here for non-fungible tokens. Over the near future, people are already building in each one of these use case examples that you can go and research yourself. You can figure out who's actually deploying smart contracts and doing this actively. It is early stages for every single one of these use cases. I've said this many times before, but it's very important to do your research on these individual projects. First use case for non-fungible tokens is art. Crypto art has been around for a very long time, and it's near and dear to me because my mother, she is a visual artist, has been my entire life, really taught me how art is bought and sold at a young age. So I understood that it was a pretty broken market from the start, where people are keeping written ledgers of who owns what, how long people have owned things before they've sold them, what they've sold them for. It is a very archaic and broken system. So crypto art really leaning into the intent of the original artists. I have a smart contract as the artist. I can start minting my pieces, whether they're one of ones or one of 1,000s or however many I want to mint. That is intended by the artist to go out there, and you can always source it back on chain to know that it came from that original artist, like a signature. If I were to sign the back of my art piece right now on a canvas, it's the same thing, except it's actually verifiable. A lot of people have counterfeited art in the past. It's a big problem in the space. I love the fact that artists are really spearheading this space right now. They're doing an incredible job on sites like Nifty Gateway, on Grow Your Base. They're doing tons of great promotions and tons of great pushes to get their artwork out there. And the younger generations want to be able to fully own this artwork. So it's a very exciting space for artwork. And that is the first example of how an NFT can be utilized very effectively. This use case here is collectibles. Now, this is a wide spanning category here where a lot of things fall into this category. The best example here was crypto kitties. That is definitely coming up now because of where we're at in the economy. People are looking for collectibles to store their value in. So you have a lot of different things that fall into this category of collectibles, like fine wines. I interviewed with the founder on the channel here. We talked about fine wine investing, and verifying that it wasn't a fraudulent wine was very important. So adding an NFT to wine is very, very important for people to be able to verify actually came from this vineyard, grapes came from this place, things like that. So collectibles is a big category here. It applies to a lot of different things, but ultimately what you need to know is people store a lot of wealth, trillions, in collectibles, because things like watches and all of these different types of assets that appreciate, people are going to always move their money into, especially if inflation is right staring them in the face. They need to find creative assets like collectibles to store that future generations will find attractive and will repurchase in the future. Next up, we have music. Now, there have been some big shifts in this space over the past couple of weeks even here. The Kings of Leon, the very big band, released their album on an NFT, and this is a really cool concept. They minted, I believe it was 18 golden tickets as well. So they stashed or vaulted 12 of these tickets, just like an artist would release a piece of artwork and vault some of their pieces for 100 years down the line. They did this on an NFT. So it has a dynamic image on it. Really, really cool concept to have a full album on an NFT that fans can truly own. Now, I believe they started the sale at $50 per album. And over time, they're going to stop minting those albums for people, and then they are going to become tradable collectibles. This kind of fits into the previous category of collectibles. I love the music concept because this is effectively going to disrupt royalties. It allows people to really control the ownership of their music. Their audio files can be minted directly on chain with something called Infinity that I'm going to be talking more about over the next couple of months here. But it is a very important concept that artists need to research because music has become pretty much a race to the bottom. With streaming services, they have been just wildly disrupted. You used to pay $20 for a song. You had all of these vinyl records and things like that. And now it is just obliterated the profits for a lot of artists out there. So NFTs are really going to give the power back to the artists, allow them to connect directly with their fans. There are a handful of really well-known artists that are getting into this space to really connect with their fans and just release something cutting edge. Shawn Mendes, probably one of the biggest artists out there for a lot of younger people. Currently, he released an NFT on OpenSea. You have, of course, the Kings of Leon, The Man, Portugal, Grimes, and you have Blau, the DJ, who he was part of the Metapalooza event, had all of Beeple's artwork out there at the Metapalooza event. For example, Blau's NFT, he made over, I believe it was $10 million by selling this in the equivalent of ETH, I believe. But this is something that people can really leverage as a musician and gain control of their music rights. And it's ultimately going to be where a lot of these musicians move to. And I love the idea that it is empowering artists of all kinds because it is ownership. It is ownership directly communicating with fans. If I were to mint my video right now and you could purchase it for $1, later you could trade sections of that video. Hashoshi and I talked about this a lot, where you could sell increments of the video to potential sponsors with the approval of the creator themselves. And I think that there's a lot of room to grow with this technology. Next up, we have fashion. Now, this is a space that a lot of people may not think about, but there is a ton of counterfeiting that takes place in fashion, like a mind-blowing amount that takes place. So NFTs are going to allow you to verify ownership. You're going to be able to see all of the participants in the supply chain. You're going to eliminate that risk of counterfeiting. And that may not seem like a big deal to a lot of people watching this, but ultimately it is going to disrupt a lot of the fashion industry. Always going to be knockoffs and things like that. That's just how the world works. People are always going to try and find some opportunity wherever they can, especially if they're desperate. And ultimately, this is a way to combat that with proving that something is from the original creator. Once again, going back to that verifiable ownership. Next up, we have certifications and licenses. For example, my wife is a nurse. She's going through a certification course or a recertification course where every year or every 2 years, depending on where you're based, you have to renew a license, to operate in your state. This is very key for things like healthcare and things like that, where you need to be able to verify the ownership of a certification, of a license. You need to make sure that that is not a fraudulent certificate that you got from your university, that you got from any sort of license or degree program, or just a course completion certificate. You need to make sure that you're verifying that that is a completely honest and true verified contract that has taken place between a teacher and a student, and you have completed it fairly, and you are able to show that to an employer in the future, let's say, after you get your college diploma. That can be easily transferable and easily verifiable right over there. You can just kind of zap it on over, right over to the people at the administration office. And that is a very powerful and very important part to NFTs, I believe, in the future, because people are going to be putting just basic files, storing them on chain. And this is something that universities are definitely going to need to adopt, especially with everything going online and a lot more online curriculum being out there. So certificates and licenses are going to be a huge category, mark my words. Next up, we have gaming. I've done a lot of this on the channel, talking about in-game assets. We've known about these forever. We've known about virtual currencies within games forever, ever since the StarCraft and the Diablo days that I personally had. Spent a ton of time as a kid playing these games, collecting these different digital assets. And there were secondary marketplaces where people were really trying to commit fraud and all these sorts of chaotic situations taking place. But ultimately, what is happening now is NFTs providing ownership within a game are innovating on top of that. There's play to earn concepts where I can share in the revenue of the game itself now, which is incredible. Things like Axie Infinity, where you can earn what's equivalent in many countries as a part-time or full-time salary by playing the game, which is incredible. There's a lot of articles out there of people in like South America that are playing this game and making good money playing this game. And I think that there are some really compelling use cases for NFT gaming that I've talked about a ton on the channel. So I don't want to go too much into that right now, but ultimately owning that in-game asset is extremely powerful for the gamer that is dedicating their time, their valuable time to playing the game. And with esports exploding now, you got people like Ninja making tens of millions of dollars playing a game where he could actually own a good chunk of the game itself by owning these NFTs within the game, trading them and using them as collectibles, things like that in the future. But I think that this is going to be one of the key ground zero use cases for mass adoption here. NFTs operating in the background, similar to things that are happening on Terra Virtua. You have everything operating in the background, and it is a very powerful technology for people to own assets within these games that they're dedicating their time to. Now, as an extension of the gaming category here, I wanted to talk about virtual worlds. Now, the metaverse is essentially going to be where you have all these virtual worlds talking to each other, and you can go between these different virtual worlds. You have virtual worlds like Crypto Voxels, Decentraland, Sandbox, all these places that you can build within. Now, I think that I'm extending this off of gaming mainly because that's who this resonates with first of all, but this is kind of like the simulation beginning steps here, where within these virtual worlds, you can explore them using virtual reality, or even on your browser, you can play around in them. A lot of events are happening within these virtual worlds, and you can play around with them. Somnium Space is another big one. And I'm just a big fan of virtual worlds in general and the ambition that all of these projects are really pushing for. So big fan of virtual worlds. I think that this is very early for virtual worlds, so I wanted to keep this as an extension of the gaming use case here, but definitely check out all of the virtual worlds that are out there, because the metaverse is here to stay, and it is a big deal as people continue to build within it. And last up, kind of a bonus, is domain names. Now, my man Brad Cam, we sat down multiple times. I was actually one of the first people, if not the first person, to interview him from Unstoppable Domains. They've been crushing it. He is a true entrepreneur, and buying and selling domain names is as old as the internet, essentially, as old as pets.com's days. So domain names are pretty clean cut. Everybody understands that you can buy and sell domain names. There's a use case for those. You can put websites on them. You can put anything on the internet with them. There is a Web 3.0 browser extension and things like that now that Unstoppable Domains is really experimenting with. And they've been doing some really exciting promos over the past few months especially, and they are going to be a household name, mark my words. As the first person that interviewed Brad, I definitely know they are going to not stop or slow down, and I'm really excited to be following them very closely. And just following everything around the Web 3.0, I think, is a huge deal, and applying an NFT to these domain names is just the logical next step for ownership, proving that I own this domain name. And I think that that is an extremely powerful and underrated concept, whereas with most domain services, they're owned by the provider, the GoDaddies of the world. They are just owned by them outright. And I think that that is a means to an end, where people are just going to start saying, hey, you can actually just turn my domain name off. That's not fair. I need to have this as an NFT. I need to go to Unstoppable Domains. I need to own this fully. And that is something that's very empowering and super, super disruptive. But that is it for my overview of the best use cases for NFTs right now. Now, there are a lot of other ones out there, and I highly recommend going out, doing your research, checking out some of these exciting projects that people are building in these different use case examples. There are plenty more that are out there. There are people building on top of this with, collateralized loans already with NFTFi. And a lot of really cool on-chain metadata style things that NFT42 is working on. So really, really cool innovations that are happening in this space. Super early, super, super early. Keep that in mind. But we're going to see a lot of evolution over the next year, especially. And I highly recommend checking all the links in the description below so you can do your own research, play around with these different projects. I think they're a lot of fun, and definitely just tinker around. Just get your hands dirty, play around with this. This is going to be a big technology over the next decade here for ownership, proving ownership, and verifying it. So that is it for this episode. Definitely slap a like if you like NFTs, and I will see you guys on the next episode of Hack Crypto.